Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cinematic Schematic, the official podcast of the Cinematropolis.com, your home to thoughtful conversations on film. And also, this year's podcast media partner for the dCFF 2023 Film Festival. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we're taking a closer look at another one of this year's very exciting Oklahoma feature films holding its world premiere at the festival. World premiere for What Rhymes with Reason. Yeah. So today we're going to be sitting down with filmmakers, including the film's director, one of the stars, and the composer to discuss the film's approach to using music to earn the right to be heard. Just to give you a little more of a preview, we're going to kick things off by talking about the film's premise. For those of you who might not know it, we'll also dig into some of the larger themes it's tackling related to mental health. And then we'll discuss how the film uses music to underscore these ideas emotionally for the characters and the audience. And then we're going to close out the conversation by talking a little bit more about how you can watch the movie at this year's dCFF Film Festival and beyond. Before we get to our guest host, just a quick little snippet about the film from the dCFF website. What Rhymes with Reason is described as tragedy ignites a group of teens on a quest to find a legendary landmark hidden in the wilderness, and today they navigate the quest while confronting the darkness within themselves. Joining me today to talk about the film is the director-producer, Kyle Roberts. Kyle, welcome back to the show. Long time no talk.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
I'm also very thrilled to be joined by one of the film's stars, Giselle Torres, who plays the character Rena Jones. Giselle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, I'm very thrilled to be joined by Nikolas Thompson, the composer. Nikolas, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us.
We have a great conversation in store today, but before we get to the conversation, I did just want to note, listeners, that if you are tuning in and you enjoy the conversation, please support us by leaving us a rating and review on your preferred podcast app. This is actually the best way to have all the exclusive dCFF content for the podcast delivered directly to your ears throughout the festival. With that said, let's dive into the film. Kyle, this is your first feature film as a director since 2014's The Posthuman Project. Tell us, what about this specific project made it a compelling choice for your next feature?
So first of all, I want to say we've been busy since then. This film actually took us 8 years to get off the ground, but we've also done a lot of commercial work and series work for Nickelodeon, Disney, Hasbro, Mattel, Nerf. So if people are just, seeing our feature stuff, they're like, whoa, what's taking them so long? And the honest answer is Posthuman Project almost killed me, and I wasn't ready to do another feature for a long time. And God had a plan throughout all of that. So even this film, as a creative, I wanted to get it off the ground in a couple of years. It's like, okay, we've written it, now let's create it, let's shoot it, let's edit it, and that just wasn't part of God's timing. So throughout all of this and throughout this talk of encouraging conversations about mental health through youth and families, this time couldn't be any more relevant. Just in Oklahoma City, 3 teenagers have taken their life in the last 2 weeks, which is just mind-blowing just in our community. And that's unfortunately just the world we live in today. Even your average, say 3-4A high school, they're going to deal with 1 or 2 during their high school experience at least, which is just mind-blowing.
This is a really important topic. I think it seems like, as you say, in the years since Posthuman Project has only become more prevalent among youth, or at least our awareness of it at the minimum. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about the goals of the film. Of course, the film, What Rhymes with Reason, opens with a 988 hotline notification. What were some of your goals for this specific story?
Yeah, so again, the main mission, the main purpose, the main goal is to encourage conversations about mental health, about anxiety, depression, suicide that's plaguing this world right now. And these are hard topics, the topics we don't want to talk about, that they are stuff that is taboo, for us to talk about, but obviously it's important and it's stuff we need to continue to talk about. And in a film that is also in this family-friendly, safe space, I guess you could say, it's not as sexy as saying, of course you have your 13 Reasons Why, and you have some of these other, shows and films, but sometimes they tend to glorify suicide. And so we wanted to make a film that is family-friendly and is also this radical, adventure drama, kind of thing, where we can earn the right to be heard from youth And that is our whole theme. Like that's something that I've kept to heart from day one, and how I answer question 1 to 5 million, of this feature is, are we earning the right to be heard from youth? And if not, we're not doing it right.
Right. And I think one thing that I really appreciate about the film is you called out, there are some films or television shows about suicide that there's actually been studies directly correlating, the popularity of those shows to increasing suicide among youth. So it seems like there was a very delicate touch that you guys put into both the scripting and also the filming of the stories. So kudos to you all on that note. Mm-hmm. One thing we're going to hone in on today is, of course, the music, which plays a really large role in this specific film, What Rhymes with Reason. You've mentioned to me that over 65% of the film has a score or licensed tracks. So nice job.
That's a lot.
So maybe you could elaborate here for us. Why was it so important to have an impactful score for this specific story?
Yeah, and we can definitely let Nikolas and Giselle chime in here, because it's so important to everything that they've done. But from my perspective, it's not unheard of in films, but a lot of films don't. They may have 1 to 3 licensed tracks and then some score, maybe 30% score, 40% score, something like that. Then on the other end, I'm a big superhero geek nerd. I know you are too. But you have your Guardians of the Galaxy that do have, 65, 70%. So it just depends on what you're trying to convey to your audience. And a big part for us in earning the right to be heard from youth is having, a rad soundtrack with a great score, kind of thing, and how that provides a heartbeat for the film.
Mm. Very cool. I mean, so Nikolas is the composer here, and you also, just selecting the music. How did you approach scoring music related to some of these pretty heavy themes of mental health?
Well, I would say that's, I had a lot of conversations with Kyle and Sean about, mental health and the impact that has in the film. But really, as a composer, I approach it from what is a character feeling and how are the other characters reacting to that, and then what do we need the audience to feel. So if there's a moment that a character is having anxiety or depression or whatever, then we figure that out together. How heavy do we need to make this or whatever? Is the audience looking at it from that character's point of view, or is the audience looking at it outside looking in? So that's an important distinction in that decision.
So one thing I want to ask about too, with this specific film, there's a couple times where it kind of explores the line between diegetic and non-diegetic. How do you go about separating, hey, we want this to be in fiction for the characters, or hey, we want to evoke this emotion from the audience who has some sort of relationship with the song? We're
gonna get really nerdy here. I love that question, and no one else will probably ask us that question, because we've talked about this a lot: diegetic versus non-diegetic.
Yeah. Well, we approach scenes, and Kyle will tell me this one needs music, or sometimes he'll be like, well, what do you think? And then sometimes before the film is shot, just looking at the script, I might have an idea, well, maybe, and I might mark the script or something. But really it's once I have that first edit, it kind of starts to reveal itself. I remember he sent me the first cut, which was quite long, as I recall. And I just marked every scene this one definitely needs something. This maybe could use something. This one might need something, just depending on what the sound design, what happens with the sound design or whatever.
Very cool. Well, I want to turn it over to Giselle. Of course, Giselle, you play Rena, the musician of the cast. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your perspective here. What about these specific themes drew you to What Rhymes with Reason?
Well, this film is not only a coming-of-age teenage story. I think it's so much more than that. It tackles so many important themes like mental health issues that are so prominent in youth and teenagers right now, such as, like Kyle was saying, depression, anxiety, suicide, which are things that many young people battle every day. And as an actor, you get projects all the time, but it's very, very rare when you get a project that truly resonates to you. And that's what this one was to me. And I think what drew me to this the most was just being a part of getting that conversation started and being a part of something bigger. I think a lot of kids and teenagers need a film like this, and being able to play Rena was an honor. I'm very much like her in the way of communicating my feelings through music, in the way that she uses it to cope with the obstacles that come her way. And yeah, so embodying her was really, really special, and being able to tell this story was really, really special to me.
among the cast, you have the unique opportunity to sing a lot of different types of songs. I mean, you run the full gambit of genres. You know, you have pop music, you've got Christian hymns in here, and you also have some retro songs as well. So what was, I'd love to hear a bit more. What was your collaboration with both Kyle and Nikolas throughout the production in terms to make sure that you had a performance that kind of met their vision?
Yeah, and that was my main priority. You know, I always wanted to make sure that everything I did was what Kyle envisioned and what Nikolas liked. But I think what I love also being a part of this film was that Kyle truly allowed us all to be very collaborative in the process and was open to trying out new things. So when it came to the songs, we all just talked a lot about the styles of each one and how we wanted to make it our own. I mean, Nikolas was so incredible in creating the music production and being so open to making something really different. And yeah, some of the songs are really well known, as you know. So it's important for us to kind of put our own little spin on them without obviously steering too far away from how my character, Rena, would perform them. But I'm also a musician, so being able to be a part of a project in which everyone was so receptive and wanted to create something really, really great was amazing.
Hey, you crushed it. Again, I was telling Kyle before we recorded, I was asking I was just kind of curious. I was like, when did you record some of these? And he was telling me that your introduction where you're singing in the hallway, I was like, that was really good. Did you guys record that afterwards? He's like, no, that was on the set. I was like,
yeah. No, I mean, Kyle really, really allowed me to do just anything I wanted, really. He's the best.
Nikolas, I want to turn it to you here. I mean, without spoiling any specific plot points, there was a clever use of the classic hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, as part of the story. I'm just curious, were music cues like that scripted before you came aboard, or did you have input on what songs were selected as part of the pre-production scripting process?
Well, that one was scripted. So, I mean, I actually didn't even know about that. I would need to be recording a piano player like later for that song. But for that was really the only, besides the score, like that was that, and then Let My Love Open the Door were the only ones I really had anything to do with. But that one, Giselle recorded her voice on, while they were filming, and then I think didn't you listen to like a track in your in one side of your headphones or something?
So this is a did you know?
Yeah. Did you know
the piano was not played live but recorded later? Fun fact.
Well, we tried.
So when we found that out.
We tried. To be fair, I tried to play the piano, but I couldn't.
And the piano was legit decrepit and trash.
I mean, it looked. I was gonna say it looked pretty decrepit. So if you get a quality sound out of that, kudos.
I mean, the tricky part is just getting it to like sound good, Right. So I mean, I've got like probably 300 different piano sounds. So I got my piano playing friend Aaron Phillips. He does a lot of work for me in the studio. So we just. I sent him the track that Giselle sent us, and then he just practiced it. And we came in and we got the nastiest sounding piano that we could find that sounded similar to what she was playing in the film. And that's what we did. So
I mean, just in terms of the chicken or the egg, does Giselle kind of record her voice based on what you provide, or is that something you do afterwards?
Yeah, well, like I said, I didn't know that I'd be doing that until a little later. And the cow was like, "Hey, can you get a piano recording to this one scene?" And so then we just figured it out from there.
So in that one, Giselle had a track in her ear that she was singing to. So then we matched all that later
in post. Okay. So, I mean, and this is a question for both of you. I mean, this film includes several licensed songs, including Better Together, Let My Love Open the Doors, you referenced already, On My Way to Heaven, which is from Oklahoma rapper JB, another one being Mexico. How did you approach selecting said songs? Kyle, was this something where you came in? Because I know you're really passionate about music too.
Yeah, on all of our stuff, I'm essentially like our music supervisor kind of thing. But these are all things a lot of people don't know this, but I've directed over 200 music videos or something crazy. So just knowing local bands, indie bands, stuff like that. And that's actually how we approached the whole story. Sean is our writer. And so as we were coming up with this whole thing, we have a massive Spotify playlist of 100 some tracks, and then we're whittling it down, but it's building the world. And that's how we start projects. And that's how we start the creation of projects.
Well, very cool. I mean, again, I think Giselle, you mentioned earlier that several of these are well-known songs. I mean, how do you put your own spin on some of these well-known hits like Let My Love Open the Door?
Yeah, this one was really special because obviously it's such a classic, and I wanted to make sure I did it justice. When Kyle told me they had gotten the rights for the song, I was so excited. I don't know if you remember it. I was so excited when he told me on the Zoom.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember weeks before I even got in the studio, Kyle was sending me covers of Let My Love Open the Door. I mean, some were more rock, others were more 80s. So it was just like a matter of finding our own sound and making it original in a way. It is a song that is sung by Pete Townshend, so it is usually sung by a male. So Nikolas had to make his own arrangement so it fit a female voice better. And then when I got to the studio, before I recorded, we all just sat down and we discussed where we kind of see the song going, where we want the drums to increase or the guitars, where Kyle wants to slow it down a bit so it can match what we're filming. But once we had that all down, I went in and recorded it. But it was so much fun that day. I had so much fun, and we had this incredible live drummer as well, who was really great. So yeah, it was a blast being able to just collaborate with everyone. It was definitely a team effort.
It was so fun. And I think that was the second day you were here or something. It's like, okay, we're going to the studio. The first day was like press day and table read. Now it's like, let's go record this song.
Let's jump into the deep end.
Exactly. And what I don't want to ruin it too much because this is still pretty early, when this will release. But my hopes for this song is that people will, it's such a fun song. Everyone knows Let My Love Open the Door. It's been in so many rom-coms and so many different films. But I think people will take away something, a verse in the song that they probably had no idea was even there. And that's something I'm excited for people to check out.
Yeah, that was
a little Easter egg.
Yeah, that was totally Kyle's idea, I will say. He had this vision from the start. He told me, I'm like, I love it. Let's do it. And I love it in the film. It's probably my favorite part.
Very cool. Well, it was a great performance and a visually, I think, just a very impressive scene. It was one of my favorite kind of moments in the film.
We did farm out some of those musicians. My buddy Marshall, he's from the Ivory Coast now. He lives in Chicago. He played bass on that. I've been trying to find an excuse to work with him forever. I used to live in South Korea. That's where I met him. But I was like, I got to work with Marshall on something at some point. So this was that.
Slapping the bass, man.
That's right. Oh, man, he's so good. And then the drummer that Giselle mentioned, that's my friend Scott Twitchell. I've always been looking for an excuse to work with him. He plays in a local band called Helen Kelter Skelter, who are an awesome rock band. And then the keys were played by my friend Zach Barden, who's now in South Korea. And he was just like, I was like, I need a ripping synth solo like at this part. And he did like three or four different like synth parts. But it was so fun to get everybody.
Not quite as ripping, but still ripping.
Pretty ripping, yeah. So, and of course, like Giselle, like you did awesome. So it was so much fun to work with you in the studio on that. And that's probably been my favorite part. And as a composer, I live a very like solitary life, like writing things and then sending it to you, emailing it and stuff. So getting to like actually see people like one day is like, so much fun. So,
and out of curiosity, I mean, you're working with a lot of different musicians, because I don't know that a lot of people realize this. Oftentimes you're recording the individual parts separately. Is this one where were you able to record them together, or were they all done separately where you mixed it later?
They were all done separately. Drums always first. So, I had like the demo that I set to like a BPM, which like slows down and speeds up at some parts. And then, like fake, program drums and stuff. And then, so drums were always first. So I was like, once we do the drums, you get the feel of the rhythm and the beat and stuff. And then you could pretty much do whatever. So we did Giselle second, and then everything else kind of came a little later when I played guitar and my wife sang backup vocals. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was fun.
It's awesome.
Fun tidbits. You might include this in the DVD or DVD. The commentary that you
Laserdisc.
Yeah, Laserdisc. Right. I was like, DVDs are real old school now. We're gonna listen to a couple of the tunes here in one moment, but before we do, I noticed Kyle wrote, for folks who haven't seen the movie, I noticed very quickly this was very Goonies inspired, and then they actually have a reference to the Goonies in the movie. Were there any other inspirations you two, so Kyle and Nikolas, that you drew from in terms of the sound or the tone of the score?
So not shying away that we definitely have a lot of kind of retro 80s, early 90s influence in the film. And again, that's all kind of part of this, earning the right to be heard from youth, but also their parents and something they can watch together and enjoy together. So when their parents watch it, they're like, oh, this is totally, kind of like the Goonies or Stand By Me or, something like that. And then as the kids, it's totally its own thing, but it has this kind of nostalgic tone that they can then, if they haven't seen Goonies together, they can go do that, or they could talk about these things. And spoiler alert, I mean, even our prom is a 80s themed thing. So when you get to that, I mean, that's all purposeful and that's all planned to all have this voice and tone together, so it could create this door to open and have conversations actually still going back to mental health.
Yeah. Very cool. Nikolas, anything you want to add about where you drew inspiration for the sound?
Yeah, this is, probably the fifth thing we've worked on together, and we've talked about the 80s a lot, but, growing up in the 80s, I mean, it felt like such like a magical time, like before, like, technology and stuff, so just, running out into the woods and all that stuff, at any given opportunity. But like, that those films like mean a lot to us, whether it be like Neverending Story or Goonies or whatever, so we do take like inspiration as far as like just that magical quality that those films have. I really tried not to like listen to like any like old score stuff. But, like sort of combining like synth sounds, like very vintage analog synths, like a Yamaha CS80 or, Juno or Jupiter or whatever, but with like orchestra and stuff, I think is kind of maybe the only thing we really took from it. But like, all original ideas, but it's just kind of, it's a fun, you can add weight with the orchestra, but you can still add that kind of like youthful, like retro kind of thing that, inspires and has inspired us on many projects.
The one where we keep coming back to is Curious.
Curious, right.
Because it's like this whole thing of a story of identity and purpose, that we want the score to feel very curious and you're asking questions about these characters and what they're going through.
I won't spoil it, but a lot of really powerful visual representations for that are complemented by the score. So excited for our listeners to be able to see the film at deadCenter. So I'm going to play a really brief snippet of the song Love Theme from your score. So listeners, I'm just going to go ahead and play it. And Nick, I'll ask you about it right after we wrap up. So let's get this guy up and playing. All right, so listeners, you're going to have to see the film to hear the whole piece. But Nikolas, maybe you could tell me what makes this an especially emotional piece within the context of the film?
Well, I thought this one was good because, one, it's early in the film, so I feel like I may be able to talk about the scene a little bit. But also, there's kind of a lot that happens. That whole cue is like a minute and a half, and it's when in the beginning when Jesse and Rena are talking together, and so it kind of starts very sad because they're talking about this classmate of theirs who took his own life, and then as they kind of start talking, it kind of turns a little awkward, and then it kind of turns a little sweet, and then kind of near the end, it's you'll hear a guitar come in, which is Rena's thing. So whenever you hear like a guitar in the score, that's like a Rena moment. Otherwise, there's like no guitar at
Kind of
all
like her
happening.
motif, sort of, right?
Yeah. Just instrumental. Yeah,
Callback.
instrument, but also just the theme. It teases the love theme that comes up like later when Rena and Jesse start like connecting a little more. So it was kind of
Stop
like,
ruining the movie.
Spoiler alert! I can put a tag on it. They didn't begin this
Nicholas
episode.
is our Tom Holland that ruins the whole movie.
Luke Skywalker showed up.
What?
Hey guys, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you about What Rhymes with Reason. Clearly, we are tiptoeing right up to spoilers if we talk about it too much more. With that said, though, again, I want to bring it back to something you've all three already talked about or alluded to here. I mean, this movie has very strong themes and messaging, of course, related to mental health challenges, but also friendship and adventure. Kyle, you mentioned being a big one. What do you hope filmgoers take away from their first viewing of What Rhymes with Reason? And Giselle, I'll actually start with you on this one.
Well, I hope that this film, first starts a conversation of how mental health is so important to youth and teens right now. I also hope that it shows film goers that no matter what you're going through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel and there is hope. And to surround yourself with your loved ones and people you care about and remind yourself that you're worth it. But I mean, above all, I just hope that film goers enjoy the film. Despite the difficult topics discussed, I really do hope they have a blast because this cast and crew is amazing. Kyle's amazing. Sean, our writers. We all put a lot of love and passion into this, so hopefully it can reach a lot of people's hearts and they can resonate to it in many ways.
Kyle?
I think we're all going to say the word hope. So our hope is that they can realize that there is hope out there. I mean, mental health is so important because when you break your elbow and your bone sticking out, you're going to the ER immediately, right? Because it's external, you can visually see it. But when it's internal, it's so much harder to diagnose, to comprehend. And I guess if I could pick one thing for parents, if your kids are telling you something, listen to them.
That's really good. Nicholas?
Yeah, just that, and I just hope that people enjoy it for a fun adventure story, coming of age story. So,
All right. Yeah, we should underscore this movie is a lot of fun.
it is a lot of
A
fun.
lot of fun and adventure,
It's a
treasure
lot
hunting,
of
all the
fun.
good stuff.
A lot of fun.
Just because it has a message doesn't mean it's not fun.
Absolutely.
It's very fun.
All right. Well, may give you all one final chance. Anything else you'd like to add about What Rhymes with Reason before we wrap up today's conversation?
Check it out. Thursday night.
Yeah,
6:30.
go watch it.
Take the words right out of my mouth. Harkins Bricktown Auditorium 15, Thursday, June 8th, 6:30 p.m. And there's also an encore screening scheduled for Saturday, June 10th at 4 p.m. at Harkins Bricktown Auditorium 10. Don't miss it out. Well, maybe our listeners, they want to follow the film and also maybe the work all three of you are doing personally. I'll go around the table. Kyle, where can people find out more about What Rhymes with Reason? Perhaps if they're not in Oklahoma for dCenter.
Yeah, the best place would be on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, it's WRWR_film. And then just our website is ra-pictures.com.
All right, great. Nicholas, where can people follow you and all the work you're doing with music and scores online?
Well, I have a website, NikolasThompson.com. It's spelled NIKOLASTHOMPSON.com. That's all my score stuff, and I write for orchestra as well. And I'm getting ready to add a page for producing because I produce and record a lot of local bands. So, and Nicholas Kite is the handle, NIKOLASKITE.
Very cool. I like the story behind. I got to get the story behind the kite after we're done.
Already, Kyle knows it. Yeah.
And Giselle Torres, where can people follow you and all the things, great things you're doing online?
You can just find me as Giselle Torres on all socials. We'll be posting a lot about the premiere. We'll be posting all our fits. Kyle's got his fit ready, so we'll be bombarding.
Awesome, listeners. So once you're done, go make sure if you're in Oklahoma, get your dCenter badge, which you can find over at deadcenterfilm.org. And then make sure to check out What Rhymes with Reason on Thursday, June 8th at 6:30 p.m., as we already noted.
dCenter is so fun.
Yes.
If you have, I went every year until COVID, and I really haven't been back a whole lot. But I feel like from what I've heard from everybody, of Sarah and Kaki and everybody, is it's going to be back in full force this year. And if you haven't ever been to dCenter and you're in the Oklahoma City metro area, you're crazy. Because it is so fun. The parties are so fun.
The people are fun.
It is literally my favorite time of the year.
Kyle likes fun. A lot.
Well, that's great. It's a great opportunity. We have a lot of wildly talented people in the state and also from out of the state who are able to kind of come together and celebrate all the work that's been done in film each year. And we party, we see new friends, old friends. It's a great time, listeners. So deadcenterfilm.org. Nikolas, I'm going to play us out here in a moment with the in credits theme from the film. I'm just curious, what approach do you take to summing up all of these different motifs into this specific piece?
Well, I wouldn't say it has all of the motifs, but it does have, it kind of starts off like with some of the more emotional moments, heavier moments, and then kind of turns a little curious. And then we end with like the main theme, or as we call the adventure theme, which you probably hear the most in the film. But yeah, so it's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of emotions that go on in the film.
You'll hear some Goonies influence for sure.
Possibly, yeah, but it's you hear the wide range of emotions that are expressed in the film, I think. So,
Nikolas, Giselle, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll catch you at Dead Center.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And listeners, stick around to listen to that song.